Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss if Caleb Williams will force his way out of Chicago and go to the Washington Commanders. Why are we talking about this? Well, rumors have been kind of speculating, it is very early in the draft process, but rumors have been kind of speculating that, like, hey, would Caleb Williams want to go to Chicago? Would Chicago necessarily want him because they already have Justin Fields, and would they maybe want to trade that pick because you could get a lot of stuff for that pick? So there's a lot of speculation on one, what are the Bears doing, and two, if they would decide they want a quarterback, would Caleb Williams even want to go to Chicago? Well, this stuff started to get very interesting over the weekend because Cliff Kingsbury looked like he was going to take the Raiders offense coordinator job. At the last second, pulls his name from consideration and takes the Washington Commanders job. Why is that notable? Because Cliff Kingsbury was Caleb Williams' quarterbacks coach at USC last season, and they had a very, very good relationship. Enough where Caleb Williams even posted on Instagram, basically giving Cliff congratulations on getting the new job. And that is getting a lot of people to speculate on whether or not, is this a sign that like Caleb's going to try and force his way to Washington? Another reason why you're saying, well, why specifically Washington? This is something I didn't know before I started researching this today. Caleb Williams is from Washington, D.C. He went to high school in Washington, D.C., so born and raised there. That's something I did not know until today. So it could be something where he swings it. It's like, hey, I don't want to play in Chicago. I want to play, from where I'm from, and I know all of the history with the Washington franchise, and I want to kind of resurrect it. It could be that's kind of a way that he could pitch it to like the fan base and stuff like that, or to the media and to the public at large. Now I think there's a few interesting questions that we kind of have to swirl up here because again, we obviously don't know Caleb's intentions right now. It's very early. We don't know the Bears' intentions right now, and it's early. I personally think that the Bears should just do it, and like just draft him and then trade Justin Fields because I think Caleb Williams is just better than Justin Fields, and I think he has better potential than Justin Fields. With that being said, though, I think we need to like put ourselves in the shoes of Caleb Williams for a second and ask ourselves a few questions and just say like, should he want to go to Chicago? One, and two, if he didn't want to go to Chicago, why would that be the reason? And I heard Colin Cowherd say something about this, and I know other people have been saying this too, is that basically like, hey, the Chicago franchise just doesn't know how to treat quarterbacks, and they all the insult stats of like, never had somebody over 4,000 yards or whatever it is, or no one over 30 touchdowns. And basically just the Bears have had 30 plus years of just crappy quarterbacks, and no quarterback should want to go there. Now, I want to argue that point here a little bit because is it necessarily a thing that quarterbacks are just, because I don't understand that point, and I think it's a dumb point. Because are you basically making the argument with that like the quarterbacks that the Bears are getting, they're these really good players, and then they go to Chicago and then they get some sort of spell over them and they just start to suck? Because I don't think that's the case. I really think, too, sometimes with the quarterback position, guys, sometimes it's just dang luck. Somebody falls to you in a draft. You're the Saints, and you somehow get, Drew Brees to be traded for you. You're the Colts, and the years that you're the worst, you get the number one pick when Peyton Manning's in the draft, and then you get the number one pick again when Andrew Luck is in the draft. I think a lot of this stuff comes down to luck, and I did this in a previous video like a few months ago. But if you go through the Bears quarterbacks that they've drafted in the first round, here they are. In 1992 or 82, pardon me, they draft Jim McMahon with the number 5 overall pick. Jim McMahon, if he was healthy for the 80s, if you could say he could play in, let's say, 75 to 80% of his games through the time he was drafted throughout the whole 80s, the Bears would have won multiple Super Bowls, and Jim McMahon would probably be a Hall of Famer. There was stretches in the 80s. I can't remember if it was a 4 or 5 year stretch, but when Jim McMahon was healthy, the Bears had a record of like 39-3. So he was a very good quarterback, just couldn't stay healthy. Next first round draft pick for the Bears, they draft Jim Harbaugh with the 26th pick in 1987. They got Harbaugh because they couldn't trust Jim McMahon and his health, and they still thought they had an awesome team that could win Super Bowls. Now, again, I don't even think like Harbaugh wasn't necessarily like a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he was a quarterback that was in the league for a long time. and had success in like won playoff games in Indianapolis, um, with the Colts. Like he had a decent career. This next guy that drafted 1999, Cade McNown. I don't know who that is. Not sure if that's a real person. That's probably their worst bust at the position. 2003, Rex Grossman didn't necessarily have like a great career, but did help get the Bears to a Super Bowl, was a quarterback of a Super Bowl participant. So I think that's notable. 2017, this is probably the worst one because they traded up, drafted Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. That got taken several picks after they did at number 2. So that's the worst one. And then they drafted Justin Fields in 2021, which I don't think he's a bust. So if you kind of look at all of these quarterbacks, one, they're not like drafting these guys like they don't have like 5 times where they are at the top of the draft or a top 5 pick. The only ones that were top 5 picks were Jim McMahon and Mitch Trubisky. So is it a chance that like that the Bears are this franchise that just doesn't know how to get the quarterback position right, or have they just kind of been unlucky with not, when they're at the top of the draft there isn't a quarterback? Like really the only time you could say that they picked the wrong guy is Trubisky. That's really it. Like there isn't like Hall of Famers that now there might be some. I didn't go through all of it. There might be some that are getting taken several picks after, but it's not one of these things where like they just have this bad, reputation of like, screwing it up. I just think they haven't like really hit that top tier premier talent. They haven't had a chance to draft a Caleb Williams yet. They haven't had a chance to do that. And now they do. And if you're the Bears, I don't think you can screw this up and try and, like build like you might not have this chance again to get someone like Caleb Williams. You can't trade that pick. You can't do it. You have to get Caleb Williams. And I think two guys there's a speculation that like, oh, he might ask not to go to Chicago. I don't know why Caleb would do that. I really don't, because I think if you were and I've heard some people say this. Let's pretend we're in like a different universe where the Bears don't have the first pick in the draft this year. And they just have their ninth overall pick, and we know that they went 7-10 this past year and had a good finish to the season. I think even just with Justin Fields going into next year, a lot of people, and I think people are going to do this, whether they stay with Justin Fields or draft Caleb Williams, they're going to predict the Bears to make the playoffs next year because DJ Moore has been an excellent addition. I think their offensive line isn't that bad. And I think after they traded for Montez Sweat, the defense looked a lot better last year. Just say that you draft Caleb Williams, trade Justin Fields or something, use that 9th pick on another lineman or a offensive weapon, which you can get a pretty good receiver with the 9th pick in the draft this year. You could make an argument that the Bears just hit the ground running next year with an awesome young quarterback, a bunch of weapons, and like a solid defense, and the Bears are ready for playoffs next year. Now there is a different conversation where you'd have to go like where do they rank in their division, because the Packers finished the year very strong. The Lions were very, very close to making the Super Bowl. So, are they still, even with all of that stuff, are they still like the 3rd or 4th best team in their division, depending on how you view the Vikings? So that's something to consider here too. But also too with whether Caleb Williams, even if you think all of that stuff about like, hey, there's still the Lions and the Packers head in them or their division, and I don't know where they rank in the NFC. All right, cool. I'm not going to argue with you on that. Here's where I will argue with you though. If he isn't going to go to the Bears, and I think sometimes we have to think about this stuff, because I think sometimes we say something and then we don't think about like we think about the first step, but we don't think about the second step. And the first step here is like Caleb Williams shouldn't go to Chicago. Okay, if he doesn't go to Chicago, where's the better situation that he should go that's realistic? Where is it? Let's go ahead and just look at the draft here, because I think if the Bears were to hypothetically, if Caleb Williams were to force their hand, I think the Bears would trade back within the top 10. I think that would be it. So Washington. Is Washington really a better position right now than the Bears? Is it? Because again, too, it's not just swapping the picks. It's swapping the picks and the Bears get a bunch of stuff. And if you kind of learned with what the Bears have kind of been targeting when they've been doing these trades, like last year when they traded for when they traded the number 1 pick, they probably could have gotten, another high-end pick, but they were like, no, we want DJ Moore. They traded a second round pick, their second round pick this year for Montez Sweat. They want kind of young, talented players. So if they're trading with Washington, what are they getting? Are they getting multiple picks? Are they getting Terry McLaurin in that trade? Are they getting Dotson, who was a guy that they drafted in the first round receiver a few years ago? Is New England a better situation? I don't think so, not at all. I don't think they have that many good weapons, and you still have question marks at the head coach there. Um, they have a lot of issues to fix in New England. Um, Arizona already has a quarterback. Chargers already have a quarterback. The Giants have no offensive line, and their best weapon is Saquon Barkley. They have no wide receivers. Um, do think they have a good coach. Do think their defense has some nice elements to it, but I don't know if that's a better position than the Bears. Tennessee, let's not even consider it. Atlanta, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, Atlanta, they got Drake London, and they got Bijan Robinson, and they got Kyle Pitts. Remember what I just said about DJ Moore. If Atlanta hypothetically trades up to that number one pick, the Bears are getting draft compensation, and they're also getting, I would say they're probably going to ask for either Bijan Robinson and or Drake London. And then we have the Bears at the next pick, and then you have the Giants or the Jets behind them. They're not trading him in division. So you kind of just go up and down that list there. I think if you're just talking about best positions for a quarterback to go to, if you're just talking about like the top 10 in the draft, like I think the Bears is the best spot. I really do. And I think Caleb should want to go there. Now, again, your question marks could be, do you trust, the ownership and the front office to really consistently build a team around you? And do you trust the head coach? Because I still think, yeah, so I just think that the Bears situation here, I think if you're comparing it right now with the talent that they have on their team and compared to the talent on their other team and the assets that they have, because again, too, if they draft Caleb, they still have that ninth pick too. So they can get something nice for it. Again, I think your concerns are ownership and the head coaching situation. But again, too, like if it bears out that like the coach sucks, they're gonna fire him, and all of a sudden the Bears, if they have Caleb Williams, is a very attractive head coach opening for different candidates around the league. So I think Caleb should want to go to the Bears, and I think the Bears should definitely draft him and figure out what to do with Fields, and then use that other pick to get a weapon. And I think it could be a very good marriage, because I don't buy the thing about that the Bears are cursed at the quarterback position, and just anyone that goes there just sucks. You could argue that maybe they haven't made the best decisions in the past of choosing a quarterback, especially the Trubisky. But I also think, too, the years that they've been really bad, it hasn't lined up for them to draft franchise guys in the draft. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should Caleb want to force his way out? Should he want to go to Chicago? Is there another team he should go to? Well, there you have it, guys. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you like content like this, hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out in the algorithm, really helps support the show. So it would mean a lot if you did that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.